Hello everyone. Today we are going to complete ng girls tutorial. Okay, let's start. Click and read. Here we have tutorial split into sections. We will complete it section by section. And now we start with introduction. Introduction tells us about what Angular is. We won't spend time on it. You can read it. And now let's go to installation. We should prepare for the tutorial. First thing we need to do, we will install Node.js. Let's go to this website, nodejs.org, and install this or this one. It doesn't matter. The next thing you need to install is Git client. Navigate to gitscm.com, download a client for your operating system and install it. The next thing you need to install is IDE, Integrated Development Environment. I suggest to use Visual Studio Code. Go to this website called visualstudio.com and install it. You can also install Insider's build. That's next version that's in beta stage. And now we can go to Angular itself. Navigate to Angular.io, click Get Started, and here you will have the command to install Angular CLI. Angular CLI, it's a tool that will help you to generate a project itself and also components of the project. So just run this command in your system. You can run it pressing Windows R, and here you can type console commands and they will execute. So I will type it here, npm install -g Angular CLI. I've already installed all this stuff, so I am opening tutorial and switching to the IDE. Here is my Visual Studio Code IDE, and what we will do now, we will generate Angular project itself. We click Angular kicks in. Here with some explanation what Angular is. I'll keep it now. I suggest for you to read it. Here we see what component is. Actually, component is building block of Angular application. It has HTML template with some directives in it. As you can see, we can also add pipes here. We can add styles to the component that will change how your component looks like. And also we have code called controller. It's actually a class that holds all logic of the component. Okay, now we will generate the project itself and create a component inside it. So let's find the code for the project. I believe it should be here. We should run command ng new. Okay. Here we have appendix 1, generating a new project. Let's click it. We have explanation of the project itself. We just need to open console in our IDE, view, integrated terminal. Here it is, and we will type code that will generate component ng new. We will name our project ng girls to do, and we will need to add such parameter prefix to do. Now Angular CLI will generate a project, and we should wait for a few minutes when it finishes. I am using Angular CLI version 1.50 and it uses Angular 5, so it's latest version of Angular till today. Let's wait while it completes generation of a project. And while it's working, let's switch to this section, a new component, and it explains how to create a component for the Angular. We will use Angular CLI. We will type this command ng gc name of the component and -it. It means use Angular CLI, generate component with name input, and also this component should have inline template. Here, as you can see, there is a full version of this command, but it is much easier to type a short version of it. So let's check how our project is generated. It's still in process, so let's wait. It may take several minutes. If your computer is slow a bit, you will have to wait. Mine is fast, but it also requires me for wait. So I am waiting. Okay, as you can see here, it completes. I can run the project. I can type npm start, but I should open the project in Visual Studio Code. Let's type open folder, navigate to the project. I have it here, and g goes to do select folder, editor, IDE opens the project. As you can see, it's here. Let's open terminal, view integrated terminal, and run this command npm space start. It will build the project. Okay, here you can see how it's building. It's complete, and here we have an address how to open it in browser. Let's click on it. or you can just copy paste it. I will open new window. Open it here, and as you can see, we have welcome to ToDo. That's the title of our application and starting page of it. So let's switch to tutorial, and we will generate a new component named input. I will arrange my windows a bit, so I will put this window here. I will place editor on the left, and also I want to see how my project looks like. I will place a window with it into the right bottom corner. Here it is. So now we will generate a new component. As we have our project running in one terminal window, we will open another one. So we will click new terminal. Okay, and now run this command: ng space g space c input space -it. Angular now will generate a new component. Okay, we have a component generated. Let's find it. You can see it's here, input, and here is our component. It has some basic template, and here is our controller, and styles placed in separate file. Here is file with styles, and also we have a file called input component spec ts. That's actually unit tests for our component. We won't use them now, and let's see what tutorial tells us to do. New component. I will make font a bit smaller. Okay. It explains how this component looks like. So let's return to it. We have import. This import section tells us that we use component decorator, and on init, that is here, its interface from Angular core. Then we use this decorator to tell Angular how this component looks like and which parts it resembles. It has selector ToDo input. It has template declared here, styles declared in separate file, and actually class of the component is declared here from this 12th line. Input component implements on init. So let's maybe check this component. We will open its template, and we will add this code to template, so we can just copy paste it to make it fast. Let's place it here. We have template, we have one input, we have a button save, we have a paragraph that tells us the title is title. As you see, title is not defined, so we will define it in the class title of type string equals to empty string. Actually, if we know that this is a string, we can remove this definition of type and save it. Everything is excellent now. And we can add this component to the file app component ts. So let's navigate to app component ts. Here we have app component HTML that describes this starting page. I will remove it. I will remove it completely. And instead of it, I will use this code. Copy and paste it here. So it will use our component to do input. And in the top, we will have h1 tag that shows the title of the application. When I click save, file save or Ctrl S, Angular will rebuild the application, and as you can see here we have our title for the application to do, and we have our component below. It has one input, as it declared here, one input, one button save, and paragraph with text. The title is that uses variable title declared as property of class input component. Let's go to the next step. In this step we can make multiple components. Let's duplicate this line. And as you can see here, we have several components. When we type different strings, they have different strings in input. So what we will do here, we will understand what constructor and onInit is. Let's open component. onInit is an interface that should be implemented in the class. So when it has implements onInit, we should have this method. It might have some special code that will run when the component is initialized. Also, we have such thing as constructor. Constructors are very useful when you need to use some external dependencies for your components, for example services, and they are injected here automatically. You just declare what service you need to use and it will be injected in the constructor. Also we have property title. Here it is. And this title now has initial value of empty string. In the tutorial we see that we can change title to the some value. So let's do it. This title equals to hello world. Hello world. Fine. When we rebuild our application, we see that all our components below display this title. This title is hello world. The title is hello world. Excellent. And let's create a new method. The method will be called change title. So let's navigate below and create change title. Change title. It will have new argument, new title of type string, and won't return anything, so it will have type void. And inside of this method we will assign this title value new title. And Also, there is an idea to refactor this method to not to return just empty value void, but to return string. So we will change it to string, and now we will return new title. So return this title. At first we will assign it to the value this title. Here is the value, and then we will return from this method. Currently this method is not used anywhere, but we can for example use it in the constructor. So in the constructor, let's write this changed title and type text I love Angular. Excellent. And when our application is rebuilt, you can see that the text has changed. So how it works? It when constructs this component, this code is executed, method called, this value I love Angular is assigned to title property, and this title property is used in our template, inside our template. When Angular sees this notation with double curly braces, it tries to read title from the component, and it gets value I love Angular. Excellent, excellent. Here we have a suggestion how we can debug our code. Inside constructor we can write console log in constructor. Let's do it. Console log in constructor. Then we change title and we'll print new title to the console. Console log this dot title. This dot title, and our application is rebuilt. If we open tools, developer tools, Ctrl+Shift+I or F12, we can see console, and as you can see in console we have output in constructor I love Angular, in constructor I love Angular, in constructor I love Angular. Why we have three outputs? That's because our component is constructed three times. So let's go further, and here we have a property binding. Our component looks like this now. Let's return to the component. Here is the code for it, and what we will do here, we will change our input. So we will build the value of the input to title property of the class input controller. So let's do it here. Input value equals to title. Let's save it and see what changes. As you can see here, value of the input receives a new value I love Angular. That's because this bind works from the right to left. So title declared in the class is assigned to value of the input, and you see this value. I will remove in the app component, I will remove two declarations of ToDoInput just to have one, so it won't confuse us. We have just one declaration, and as you can see in the input we have text I love Angular. Excellent. And here we have explanation of change detection mechanism that is built into Angular. For example, if we add this code to ng on init, let's copy it and go to ng on init. This code will change the title to another value, but it will change it. Let's remove extra spaces, but it will change it only on 3 seconds after the component is loaded. So when I save this file, Angular will rebuild and reload application. I wait for 3 seconds and titles change it, as you can see. So how it works? When we assign new value to title, Angular automatically sees that it has been changed and changed value of the input. Okay, and what we will do now, we can bind the value not to the property of the class but to the function. We will create function generated title. Let's do it. Function generate title, generate title of type string. It will return a new value. This title was generated by a method, and we will use this function inside the template. Instead of title, we will use generate title, and also we need to open brackets, braces, just to have generate title method call. And as you can see, here this title was generated by a method, and below we see this not the title you are looking for. That's because the value of input is not bind to title but bind to the method generate title, and title property changed to this value. I believe it's better to remove this code, so we will simplify it a bit. We have now the title is I love Angular, and this title was generated by a method. Two different values, just because they are taken from two different spaces. One is from the property here, and another one is from the method here. Below we have explanation about accessing the document object model. Maybe you know that you can use vanilla JavaScript to access elements of the DOM tree, but in Angular you should never access the DOM directly. So let's skip it. Just know that we won't use this approach. Another step is event binding. We want our application to react to users' actions. So how we can bind to events in Angular? Okay, if we want to react to click of the button, we should add name of the event click. Let's type name of the event click. Use parentheses to wrap it here, and then provide binding to the event. We will use method change title, and we will call it with a button clicked argument. Change title button clicked. That's all. Now our application is reloaded, and when we click save, title is changed here. We will remove this generate title fun method call, and will replace with title property. Also, I believe we can remove this method from the class itself, just to make it simpler. Let's rebuild the application. We have I love Angular code, click save, and it changes to button clicked. So what we have here, we have a button that responds to click event, calls change title method on component input component with argument button clicked. It replaces value of title with new value button clicked, and then it displays in input and in the paragraph below the input. So let's go further. We also can use other events. For example, let's assign key up event that triggers when a user ups key on keyboard. So let's write parentheses key up is equal to change title button clicked, and now when we try to type text here, we see that it changed to button clicked value. But I believe that's not what we actually want to achieve. I believe that we want to show the text that was typed in the input. To access the value of the input, we can use event object, and instead of hard coding this text button clicked, we will change it to the next construction: event dot target dot value. Event is an built-in Angular object that holds event that occurs. Target points to the element which raised this event, so it will be input itself, and the value, it will be value of the input. So when I save this page and try to write some text, as you can see, title changes automatically. Some text, as you see, when we change text in the input, it will trigger this event key up. In turn, it will call change title method. This method change title will access event target value, and inside this change title method we will change this title. So below the button we will see new title here. Also we can change the behavior, so it will react not to a key up of any key on keyboard, but only to enter key. So let's write key up dot enter, save it. Now when we change the text, it actually doesn't trigger update event. Only when we press enter it changes. Let's write some text and press enter, and it changes now. So it triggers only on enter key, but all other behavior is the same as before. Here we have some suggestions how to explore the event. We can replace change title not to string but to event itself. I will skip it, you can experiment with it. Another thing is element reference. So we have our component selector to do input value title, key up enter, it changes title to event target value. We have button click that changes title to button clicked. Okay, and the title is title, everything as we have so far. I believe we can remove this I love Angular and console log from constructor, so we will have empty constructor. Let's save it. Here is the component we have so far, and in the method change title we just save title to new title, but don't return a string. So let's change it back. So here we have only 26 lines of code, and when we type something, press enter, we have it output here. Okay. So now we will learn such thing as input element. As you can see, we use this hash symbol and add it to the input. Hash input element. What it does, it creates a new variable that is a reference to input element itself, and then we can use this variable inside our code. We will use it here, and we can use input element dot value. When we call this code again, sample text, and press save button, as you can see, now it changes value to what we have provided in the input. Actually, the title of input element, we can name it with any other value. For example, just input value, and save it. Input value, save it, test variable, click save, and as you can see it works the same way, but I believe that name input element is better. So let's rename it back, input element. element. What we have learned so far is that we can add this symbol to any element in our template, and it will create variable that we can access from our code. So let's go further. And we can also try to experiment with input element. We can change it to accept, we can change method change title to accept not just title, but input element itself. We can remove value. We can change arguments of the method to input element. It will have type. In the tutorial we don't have any type provided, but we actually can provide type HTML input element, and now we can reference it input element dot value, and now actually our code should work as before. Sample text, press save button, we have sample text. Excellent, let's go further. So now what we are going to do, we will open our app component. Let's click to app component, and we will declare a property ToDoList property, and this ToDoList property will hold an array of to-dos. Let's copy it and paste. Actually, in real application it is considered as bad practice because we hard-coded data in our component, but for this tutorial it's actually okay. And what we will do now, we will open our template, app component template, and below of our to-do input component we will create an ordered list, and inside this unordered list we will generate list items with such directive as ng4 let item of to-do list. Item will be variable that holds elements of to-do list one by one. So inside list item we can reference this variable item dot title, and we will have a generated list of items from the array. Let's save it, and everything works perfectly. As you can see here, we have list of titles from our array. Also we can create another directive, use another directive ngIf, for example, and check some variable, and ngIf will show this element h1 only if this variable references, if this variable calculates to true. So let's go further, and we will generate a new component to-do item. This neat because we have a list of items and we show each item here, but we will replace it with a component. So let's open our terminal and generate new component. ng space g space c item minus it, ng CLI will generate us a new component. We can find it here. As you can see, we have component item. It has some sample template. And what we will do, we will replace this string with our newly created component. So instead of this markup, let's write to do item and save it. As you can see here, we have text item works, not the names of our or titles of our items. This is because inside of item component we have this template item works. What we need to do now is to replace this template and behavior of the component itself with such code that will get title of the component from outside. So we need to pass somehow inside this component a title of the items, and for such task we need to use such decorator as input. Inside the component we will write add input and provide name for the variable item title of type string. As you can see here, Visual Studio Code underlines this input because it doesn't know about it and requires us to import it. So we click here on the lamp and click here add input component. So now it knows about the input, and what we have to do, we should replace this template with reference to the input variable. It calls item title. Yes, it calls item title. As you can see below, titles of our elements are empty. That's because we need to pass them. So let's return to app component HTML and pass values. To pass the values, we need to write such code item title equals to item dot title. Now when I click save, the list should be updated, and it holds correct titles for the components. Also, what we can do is we can pass not just the title to the component, but we can pass the whole item. So let's refactor the code to pass the whole item. Switch to this item component description, and now we will have item, not just item title, but whole item. Let's rename it to item. Let's tell that it will have type any, so it can hold any element. In the template we will use item dot title, and inside our app component we will pass item, the whole item, and we will write item also on the left side. Save application, and as you can see here, it behaves the same way as before. So let's go further, and we want to add items to our list. So let's do it. Inside our input component we will use output decorator. This output decorator will allow us to pass data from the input component. We have input component here, and we want that data from it will be passed outside. Let's switch to it, and we will use output decorator for this event. So let's write it at output submit. It will use such thing as event emitter. Event emitter will produce an event. We tell that it will have type string, so it will produce strings outside the component. Now Visual Studio Code requires us to import declaration of output. We import it, and also it doesn't know event emitter, so we will import also event emitter. Click here and add event emitter from Angular core. Okay, we have component on init, output, and event emitter. Now, as you can see here, we have declaration of our input. And what will we do? Inside change title method, our change title method activates when we click button, and also when we click enter key on the input. Inside this change title method, we will not just replace the title, but we will emit an event. So let's remove this method, this code of the method, and write another one. This submit emit and value new title. So when we have new title, but actually we have the whole element here, we can change our code back to have not the whole element but only title. So change title input element dot value, and we'll use input element dot, not just input element but new title of type string. New title of type string. We will emit new title. Okay, what we need to do now, we need to catch the event inside parent element. Actually, let's switch to the parent element. We have to do input, so we will use syntax for event submit, and let's call add item with parameter event. So when event comes from the to-do input component, we should call add item method. This method we will create in the component app component itself. So let's switch to app component, and inside it we should create add item method that gets title string. It doesn't return anything, and what it should do, this ToDoList push, and it will push title here. Let's save it. Save app component, save input component, and let's check it. New element, click save, and as you can see here, it appears in our list. Another element, click enter, and it appears in the list. Excellent. Excellent. Let's go further. And now we should refactor our app component. We are going to perform small refactoring. The app root shouldn't have such large template and all this logic. It should just call another component that will deal with that. So we will create a new component called list manager. Let's call this command ng generate component list manager that uses inline template. Now we have new component list manager. Then move all the code from app component to list manager. Let's open app component. And now we will move everything that works with our to-do list to list manager. Remove it and go to list manager. We have template inside the component. Remove this one and replace with another one. Excellent. Also, we should move this add item method and a list of items. So let's move to app component and move this stuff to do list and add item. Ctrl X. Switch to list manager component and move the code here. Excellent. No trailing with spaces. Excellent. And we should call this to-do list manager inside our app component. We have title of our application and to-do list manager below. File save all, and now our application should behave as before. New item. We have new item. Another item. Save. We have another item. Excellent. Let's go further. What we are going to do now is to add styles. So we have styles in this file that generates Angular CLI. We can find it. src styles. src styles.css. Here we can use global styles for our application. Let's remove this comment and copy paste styles from the tutorial. Copy and paste. Copy paste. When we save this file, our application should be rebuilt and we have styles applied to the page. Okay, actually I didn't copy all of the styles. Let's copy all styles. Save it. That looks better. we see our application, but we have that its interface changed with CSS. How does the project know to look at this file? In Angular CLI configuration file, we have a list of styles, Angular CLI JSON, and we can scroll to the styles. As you can see, here we have a reference to style CSS. We can open also browser development tools and see style inside the element. We can inspect our web page, inspect, and we will find styles. Here you can see that all our styles defined in file style.css are here inside head section of the page. Let's close it, and now let's add styles specifically for the list manager component. So we will navigate to our list manager component, open list manager component.css, and add this style to it. Let's copy it all, copy and paste. These styles are different because they are applied only to the component list manager. They are isolated only to this component. Let's save application. And now it should be added to our list manager. The only issue is that, as I can see, we don't have names of classes. So let's go to list manager component, and now we should add classes to items. To do app.toDoApp should be added. So I need to understand how to add classes. So let's return to our template, and we should add this class ToDoApp. It will have position relative, width, padding, background, border color. I believe I can wrap. I should add this h1 from app component. Let's move it also to the ToDoList manager. I will add it to the template h1. Okay, now I suggest to wrap everything in div tag. Let's do it and add class to it. Div class equals to ToDoAdd, ToDoApp class ToDoApp. Here it is. Now we also need to move title here from app component. We will move title to list manager. Here we have title. We can name it to do app, to do application, remove any trailing spaces, can save it. Okay, as you can see here, our styles were applied, but not all of them. Not all of them. We need to also use ToDoAdd class. I believe ToDoAdd should be. Let's return to our list manager, and ToDoAdd I believe should be added to this input. ToDo input class ToDoAdd. It will have margin bottom of 20 pixels, so a list of items will be moved for 20 pixels bottom. Let's save it. Class ToDoAdd. Okay, we can inspect in the developer tools, can find this element, and we can see margin of 20 pixels in the bottom. Good. Now let's move further, and what will we do? We will add a style to input component.css. Let's switch to input component, input component, and now we will add this classes. We will add these styles, and okay, I see that something is broken here. The title is install. And also we have separate styles for item component CSS. Let's go. Let's take this one and place them to item component CSS. Paste these styles. Save application, and we should add classes to our elements. So let's add classes. We have ToDo item here, ToDo item dot should be dot ToDo item. ToDo checkbox, ToDo title, button red hover. So let's switch to the template, and we have just title, item title, but what we will need to add, we need to add classes that it will understand. So let's work a bit with classes. We have item component and item component styles. ToDo item, ToDo checkbox. We actually don't have checkbox yet. we see it in the next steps on the tutorial. So let's add class ToDoItem. It will have display flex, justify content space between. Each item also will have checkbox, title, button red hover, I'm a bit confused with these names of classes, so let's find out what we need to add and in which template. We don't have checkbox at all, so and also we don't have button yet. We don't have button, don't have checkbox. We just have to do input, then host not hidden, display flex, justify content space between. This selector is used to apply styles to parent element. Let's click here and see what styles were applied. Yes, we can see that it applies to the to-do input these styles. Actually, I don't like how it looks like now. I suggest to switch these styles temporarily and let's return to them later. Let's have this app look like this for now, and we will return to styles later when we complete all other steps. So let's go further and we will create service. Services in Angular are JavaScript functions that are responsible for doing specific tasks only. They use such mechanism called as dependency injection. And now what we are going to do, we will create service called ToDoList, add it to the ng module. Okay, let's generate a service, ng space g space s ToDoList. Now we have service, ToDoList service. Inside our application module, we will use this service. We start with import. So let's import here. Import ToDoList service. Angular Visual Studio Code added it to the top automatically, but I will move to the bottom of these import statements. Let's divide them with one space, with one empty line. And now we have ToDoList service imported in app module. And now we also need to provide them. Here in providers, I should tell name of this service, ToDoList service. So when we have any component that has in constructor reference to ToDoList service, Angular dependency injection mechanism will create an instance of ToDoList service automatically if there was no instance. But if we have an instance created before, it will provide an existing instance. So the service will be created only once for the module itself. Then we will move this array of items to the service. Let's move them to the service. We will find them in our list manager component. We have our to-do list. Let's cut it and move to the service. And in the service, we will mark them as private to-do list. And we will create a method to access this list. Method will be called get to-do list. Return this to-do list. So we will have a service that will return this array of items. Okay, what we will do now, we will inject this to-do list into the list manager component. To inject it, we should use the constructor. Let's write private to-do list service of type to-do list service. Angular will add input automatically. We have here input. We can move it below import of standard elements. And now we have our to-do list service. And what we will do inside our ng-on-init method, we will assign this to-do list to this to-do list service get to-do list. And now a list of elements is assigned from the service. Visual Studio suggests us that it doesn't know about to-do list. We can declare it. We can write to-do list. Tell it that it will be array of any. So we have our to-do list property, and it gets from the to-do list service. And now our project is rebuilt and it behaves the same way as before. The only difference is that the list of items is stored in separate service, not in component itself. Let's move further. And in this chapter, we will improve our service by adding more abilities. Here we will create a new function called add item, and this item will be added in service. So let's create a new function, add item. It receives item as parameter, and we call this to-do list push item. So instead of adding items inside component and list manager component, we will reference to-do list as service, and we'll use it. Actually, ToDoList service is declared created in our constructor, so we can call ToDoList service this ToDoList service and call the method add item, and we will pass item to the service. Test. It actually doesn't work because I believe I have an error in this code. I should use brackets, so it will be added as object with title item. Let's save it. Test item. Save, and now it appears. So there is a mistake here. We should write not just item, but pass it as object to the list of elements. Now everything works perfectly. Let's move further. Local storage. Local storage is a database built into the browser. It has appeared in HTML file. So what will we do here? We will create a ToDoList storage, new service, ng generate service ToDoList storage. Excellent. Now we have ToDoList storage service, and inside this ToDoList storage service, here it is, we will access local storage. So let's do it. In the constructor of this service, in the constructor, we will write such code. This ToDoList is equal to JSON parse local storage get item we have storage name get item storage name. Storage name will be a constant that will have name of element in local storage that holds our items. So let's create it. Const storage name is equal to just ToDoList. It tells us not to use const as class member. We can use const here. Okay. We will declare ToDoList as private. Private ToDoList, type any. And now it will have methods to get items, post items, put items to update them, item changes, and destroy item. Also, if we will use our ToDoList storage service, we should add it to app module. We have a list of providers, we have ToDoList service, and we also will have ToDoList storage service. When we click it, Angular automatically adds declaration. Place it here. And now we will implement methods one by one. On the get, we will return items. So we will return this ToDoList. We will use a spread operator here. Then so it will expand elements. We will have a post method. Post will add element to the array. This ToDoList push item. Also it will have this get, return this get. Then we will have update. We'll use a local storage, private update. I don't actually see update, so let's create it. Private update, local storage, set item, storage name, JSON stringify this ToDoList. So this method update will save to the storage the whole list and return this get. Return this get. It should be private update. Okay. Here we use a simple method of set items which takes a key and string value and stores to the local storage. And when we will have post, this will add items to the local storage, this ToDoList push, and then we will call this update, return this update. Okay, and now we will implement put element. For put element, we will create find item index, private find item index item, return this ToDoList index of item. So it will scan the whole array and we'll look for index of element that we will are trying to find. Now inside the put method, what we will do, we will use object assign this to-do list. Then we will find index of the element, find item index, pass the item, and then add the new value changes. Add changes. And then we will return this update. So we will return this update. We will save to the database, to the local storage, and return current to-do list. Okay, and we will also have destroy method. What will it do? It will find element by index and will remove it from the array. We will use splice method. This find item index, item, and splice by one element. First we will find index, then this index will be passed as argument to splice function. Splice function will remove exactly one element starting from the index, and it will be deleted from the array. And add some default data. Let's assume we want our to-do list always have some default data to start with. So we will add a constant default list. Let's add it here. Here is our default list of items, and we need to modify our constructor. Inside the constructor, we just read items from local storage. But what if local storage is empty? So if it is empty, we will provide a default list. And tell it will be. So we will read from the local storage. Let's modify it a bit. Okay. Now we have our storage service completely implemented. At the beginning, it will try to get value from the local storage, but the value is empty, so the default list will be provided. But when we will change our list, it always will be stored to local storage, so between different runs of our application it will be saved. So our service is ready to work, but we need to provide it. So what we will do, we need to inject our service. Instead of just to-do list service, we will use storage. And also we need to change our code a bit. We will go to our list manager component, and we will remove to-do list service and replace it with to-do list storage service. Private to-do list storage service, private ToDoList storage service of type ToDoList storage service. Visual Studio should have added it here. We will remove ToDoList service from imports. Also, we will remove it here, ToDoList storage service, and instead of add item, we need to use different methods. We have post, also I will change it here, ToDoList storage service, and we will use this ToDoList storage service get, so it will return list of items. And when we save, it should save. So let's check it. New item save. Actually, I don't see changes. So let's check that everything works correctly. We need to refactor our add item method. In our list manager component, we should not just post, but we should update ToDoList. So let's do it another way. This ToDoList equals to this ToDoList service, ToDoList storage service. We have post, title. I believe that inside post method we should push item as object and also provide title. Push item with title. And now in list manager component, I post element, then get updated list, and this list should be displayed here. So let's check it. New item, save, and as you can see, it appears. But when we close our application and reopen it again, it should be present in list. As you can see, item is persistent. Let's check it again. Check again. Item should be saved between sessions. Save. Close application. Open it again, and we can see that item is saved. Excellent. Now we are going to allow removing of items. So what we will do, we will go to item component, and inside item component, inside the template, we will add button. We have item title, and then we will have button, that responds to click event and calls remove item method. And inside declaration of the button we have text remove. And then we close the button tag. We need to implement remove item method. So in the item component class we will create new output. Let's edit here, output. It imports automatically. Output remove. It will be type of event emitter. It also added automatically. Event emitter any new event emitter. Excellent. And now we will write implementation for the method remove item. Remove item. This remove emit, and it will emit this to do item. We have it by name item, just rename it to this dot item. This dot item. Okay, and inside list manager component, let's go to list manager component. We will create remove. Near the item we will add remove handler. It will have remove item with an argument of event. Remove item with argument of event. We need to implement it. Let's create remove item. It will get item, and what we'll do this ToDoList is equal to this ToDoList storage service. We have destroy. Actually, in this case, we can use ToDoList storage service directly. So I will use destroy item. But we can refactor it, so we won't have ToDoList storage from the list manager component. We can reference just ToDoList service with reference to ToDoList storage service. I've done it this way, just a bit different from the tutorial. Why it's not assignable? Destroy should return a value. Actually, this ToDoList service destroy, it should return it should modify ToDoList, then return update. Return this update. Okay, and now we have buttons. Let's check if they work. Remove, remove. We can update the application and we can see that removed items disappeared. New item, save, it appears, this is removed. We removed all items and now we have empty list. If we open local storage in the developer tools, Ctrl+Shift+I, we can go to the application. We can look for local storage, here it is, and we can remove this element, delete it. When we update our application, it generates default list of items, and now we can see. Let's try to do something. We remove one item and we see that the list is saved. So that's fine. I can delete it again, update, and we have default list of items. Excellent. Excellent. Adding a checkbox. We are now able to interact with our to-do list by removing items. As far as you have seen, I implemented this storage, work with storage service a bit differently from the tutorial. So I believe I'll better to refactor this application and use storage service from list service, to-do list service. So inside of to-do list service, I will reference to the to-do list storage service. So I will reference private to-do list storage service. To-do list storage service, it's here. I will remove it from a list manager component. I will remove it. Instead, I will use to-do list service, to-do list service of type to-do list service. So let's Angular import it. It imports. I remove references to-do list service, and instead of post, it will have add item, method add item doesn't return anything, so remove this line. Also on init I will get to-do list service to-do list service. We have method get to-do list, and on remove item we will call to-do list service. Here we will create method destroy item, and it will return to-do list. So I will go to this to-do list service. Okay, I already have a remove item to-do list service here. I will have destroy method destroy methods that won't return anything. It will just use this code from the component. Control copy. This ToDoList service destroy item. Inside it, I will call this ToDoList storage service. Destroy, and it will return to the ToDoList. Okay, inside the constructor, I have provided ToDoList storage service. I will remove this list of items. Inside get ToDoList, I will return value from the storage service. This ToDoList storage service get. Okay, it will return the whole list. Okay, and when I believe I need to provide a local variable. This ToDoList will make it of type any. ToDoList of type any. So it will assign ToDoList here and will return it. Return this ToDoList. This ToDoList. And what we will do here, we will add element to the ToDoList using the service. So this ToDoList is equal to this ToDoList storage service post and item. Okay, destroy will destroy an item. So I have refactored this code and I believe that it is corresponds. Destroy, develop, remove is not working. We should understand why it's not working. Let's go to the component, remove item. This ToDoList service destroy item. It destroys item and updates ToDoList. I believe I better do not hold ToDoList inside this service. I will return it on this method. So return on get ToDoList, return on adding element, so it will have any, and return here any So on each action with the list, we will update it inside our list manager component. On init, on remove, on init, on remove, and on add we will also do this code. So this will be passed directly from the storage service to our component. Okay, and let's clear the storage, local storage, clear the element, delete it, and reload the application. We see a list of default elements. Just remove some elements, update, and we see that removal has been persisted. Let's add new element, save, update, new element is persisted. Excellent. Excellent. And now we want to add a checkbox. We are now able to interact with our to-do list by removing items, but we now want to complete items. So let's go to item component. Item component. Let's open template. And before the element, let's create checkbox. Input type checkbox, and let's close input tag. And on click, let's add complete item. Click is equal to complete item. Excellent. Complete item will be a method here, so let's create it. And what we will do, we will create isComplete property. IsComplete, that is false by boolean false. By default, we can remove type. We should move it into the top of the declaration, and let's implement the logic. It will be very simple. This is complete is equal to not this is complete. Okay. Now we have checkboxes, and these checkboxes we can mark elements. But what we have is that we do not connect them to the storage service, so we will do it a bit later. But now what we will going to use is ng class. So ng class allows us to add some class to the element on some condition. For example, if we have a title of our element, let's go to the template. Title is here. Let's create this paragraph and replace the title with this code. So what we have here is title of the element this we have item title, not to do item, so I will replace the item title. Item title. And what this code does, when this condition calculates to true, ToDoComplete is complete. So when isComplete is true, then class ToDoComplete is added to the element. And we can create, for this class, we can create CSS style that will mark our elements as completed. So what we will do, we will add this line to CSS. Let's go to CSS and add ToDoComplete. We have it here, and when we click checkbox, it marks element as complete. But now they are looks not very attractive. I believe it's better for us to remove paragraph and replace it as span. Instead of paragraph, let it be span. Span. Let's save it. So now they are placed in a row, and when we click items, they are marked as complete. The only issue is that this element is not stored to database. Actually, we can do it. We can add another property to the object, for example marked, and store it to database. But I won't do it now. We already spent a lot of time with this tutorial, so let's go further and deploy it to GitHub Pages. That's the most interesting part, because we will have it on GitHub. So how we can do it? First thing we need to do, we need to create GitHub repository. Let's go to the GitHub. I will open in another tab. Then I will log in with my name. Okay, here it is. I will create a new project. I will name it with ng and girls to do. Create a repository. Now I have instructions how to initialize this project. So what I need to do is to run git init, then I will make commit, add origin. Okay, let's switch to the console. I will do git init. Okay, it created a new repository, and I will add this origin. I will use HTTPS connection. I can use SSH, but I need to set up additional keys so HTTPS is simpler. let's add HTTPS connection and copy paste this line. Okay, git remote add origin. Now I have origin of the project set to this repository. So let's switch to the tutorial, and it suggests to add all files and make commit. We can do it in 2 lines. So we can write git add space just point, okay, and git commit dash m and some message. We will have initial commit message. Okay, and now we can push our project to the repository. Git push your origin master. Let's provide username and password. Okay, if we open GitHub, we can see that our code has been added 40 seconds ago. We can see our application here. And what we will do now, we will install such thing as Angular CLI GH Pages. We will build our projects, provide name of the repository, and run this Angular CLI GH Pages to push to publish it on GH Pages. Okay, let's do it. npm I -g Angular CLI GH Pages. Okay. It is installing. Excellent. And now we will call this command to build our project. So ng build -prod base href. We should provide name for repository. So here we should provide name ng girls to do. Okay, copy paste, switch to tutorial and close it. ng build production base href, name of the repository. Okay, Angular will build our project. We should wait for some time. It's actually quite quick. Okay, completed, and here we have in the folder dist, we have our project prepared for publishing, and now we can publish it. Angular CLI GH Pages. I haven't used this tool before. Okay, and it tells us something some error, so we can we call this tool with help. Okay, we call with tell us no silent. Let's explain what is happening. It requires username, so we need to provide username. Okay, let's run it again and call name programming manager. Okay, error occurred again. Could not read username. I believe I can show another way how to publish it. I will check this tool later. We can rename this folder to docs instead of dist. We can repeat git add, git commit, build up, let's make git push. My name and password, and now it should be pushed to the repository. Let's update this page. You see docs here, and when we go to the settings and open GitHub Pages, we can see master branch docs folder. So let's use master branch docs folder, save, and now we could try this link. Your site is ready to be published. Let's refresh the page. Your site is published. And now we can try this link and see if our application will start. Oops, it is not starting. I believe we will find out in console what is wrong. I'm opening the console and see that actually it tries to load resources from the wrong path. I believe we could fix it. So let's switch to the project. Let's switch to Visual Studio Code. I should check this index.html. As you can see, it uses completely wrong base href. So what will I do? I will repeat the command with build, but on the page href I will provide this one /. So let's build the project again. It will rebuild the project. And this page href allows us to run Angular from any folder, not just from hard-coded folder name. So let's wait a bit. Now we have our project rebuilt, and let's check base href. It still uses this wrong folder, so I should replace it in config file. I will go to configuration and will tell it to use base href folder. It can be hard-coded here, base href. I'll just replace it here in index.html, and then rebuild the application without that value. So let's build it again. Okay, let's check it again. No, it's still incorrect. I should change it from the build properties, but I believe I can do it this way. I just change it here, save, and try to publish. Git add all files, git commit fixed href, and git push So it should be pushed to the repository, but GitHub won't update it immediately. We should wait for some time. So let's allow some time. I can return to the repository. It's here. This is the updates came 1 minute ago, and let's try to update. I will do a hard reload. Okay, and as you can see here, our application has been launched. Hello world. let's state it complete the tutorial. Save. Okay, we actually didn't completed styles. We have some other stuff to do. We can do some other stuff, but in general we completed our tutorial, published on GitHub. We had some issues while doing it, but we overcome it all, and we have finished it successfully. So thank you for watching. Hope I helped you to do it. You can visit my website. I have more tutorials on Angular, so you are welcome, and thank you for watching.